Okay, so I'm live for the people that are paying attention to the weekly Swift live stream. This week, I'm going to cover strings and characters. So I'm going to dive into, basically how to handle string formatting with the Swift language. I'm still pretty new to it myself, but I'm going to go through and try it out. So I'm going to share my screen here first. Let's go ahead and get started with sharing my screen. I'm going to share a whole window, which should be entire screen. Here we go. Yeah, so to start off with, with Swift here, you can see that a lot of the things are similar to Python. So I think Python is in a way like a good benchmark for a language, how similar it is to Python. Most people that are programmers know a little bit of Python. And so to start with, we can cover this concept of string literals. I'm a little bit slow here. I have a surgery-based hand here, so I'm going to probably not type as much as I normally do. But I'm going to start off with a string literal, and we'll go through here and we'll paste this into uh, this playground here and just and check it out. There we go. Some string literal value. And the idea here is that we're building a immutable variable. In this case, we can see the output right there. Now, how would you do multi-line strings? And this is identical to Python. So if you're familiar with Python, you'll notice that it's the same triple quote style, which is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and try this out. And notice here what's happening is that I say let, and then I build this string here, string variable question. I do these triple quotes, and then it says the white rabbit put on his spectacles. Where should I begin? And notice that there's escaping here, so that I have a quote in between, and this thing gives us the ability to uh, handle triple quoted phrases. So this is really common for data science as well. Like if you're scraping a website and you want to pull some data and throw it into a big blob so that you can do natural language processing, or building a mobile app, right? Like a lot of people use Swift for mobile apps. You most likely will have to handle some kind of phrase here, and so this is pretty cool that I can just go through here and get out a triple quote. Now, if we pull this over, notice that it does give you the new line characters. And so if you wanted to process those new line characters, you would have to figure out a way to handle that in your code as well. Now, if we go through here and we say, two different versions here, here's a single multi-line right here, you can see that basically they're the same. A multi-line string and a single line string, basically it doesn't cause it a different formatting, right? If we go through here, we can say these are the same, right? Because of the fact that the line break for a multi-line string appears in the string's value. So if we go through here and we want to actually get rid of those line breaks, which I was just talking about, how would we do this? Well, if you add this backslash, you write a line at the end of those lines, then it won't actually build that line break in. So that is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and try that out. Let's do these soft quotes here. And if I go through and I run this, what do we get? If we move this over, notice that those, now in this particular case, it does appear that those line breaks are there. I begin majesty. And so not sure why that line break is still there. I'd have to play around with that a little bit. But if I go here and I say let line breaks, and I do a multi-line string literal that begins or ends with a line feed, you can have a blank line as the first or last line. So let's go ahead and try that. If I go through here and I throw this in and I run this, what happens here? Oh, I see. So basically, if you do add a new line at the beginning and a new line at the end, it'll also add a new line in the middle. So basically, it does respect the white space. And so the white space will actually build out the new line characters. And so you can see here, here's a whole diagram. It says basically the first one, this line doesn't begin with a white space. This line begins with 4 spaces. So a multi-line string can be indented to match the surrounding code. So it gives you a background there. You can see that in a string literal, you can put escaped special characters here. So line feed, carriage returns, Unicode scalar variable, right? And so if we go through here and we wanted to add some Unicode to something, we can go through here and go to let wise words, and we get Einstein, who I'm a big fan of. If we go through here and we paste this in, we can say wise words here, and let's see what happens. Imagination is more important than knowledge. So we were able to counteract the new line character because we were able to escape it. And so I think that's what we're seeing here, which is pretty neat. And then if we want to add a Unicode in, we can go through and we can add this Unicode character. Let's go ahead and do that next. And if I add Unicode, what happens? Pretty cool. It shows up as a $sign. If I want to add a black heart, we can do this. We can add a black heart. So that is kind of neat that it has great support for Unicode. And here we have a sparkling heart, which I'm not sure why you would want to use this. Maybe in a video game, you use your sparkling heart for like something you do. And then because multi-line string literals used 3 double quotation marks instead of 1, you can include a double quotation mark. So inside of a multi-line string literal, without escaping it, include the text inside of the triple quote. So, okay, let's go ahead and do this. And we paste this in, and we can see here that, in fact, escaping the first quotation mark, we're able to get this going. We see that only the first one is escaped, but the one after that is not, which is pretty interesting. So extended string delimiters, so you can place a string literal with extended delimiters to include a special character without invoking their effects. I see. So basically, if you need the special effects of a character, for example, if your string is pound line 1, this also breaks the line. Okay, well, let's go ahead and try that out. That's kind of interesting. So if we go through here and we paste this in, what do we get? We get, here are 3 more double quotes, right? So basically, this special effect here, it shows that it basically doesn't appear. It doesn't appear there. So basically, this extends the delimiters to include a special character in a string. Interesting. So next thing we'll do is we'll do a empty string, which is something that potentially you would want to do for templating, for example. There we go. That's an empty string. But I guess you can do it another way, which is you can call string. They both are valid methods, right? You can just call string and find out whether a string value is empty by checking its Boolean is empty property. So basically, if we go through here, and I'll try to type, let's see how good I am at this. If empty string dot, and we would do the property is empty, and we add in a conditional here, basically that says nothing to see. So we'll do print nothing to see. And then it's already closed out. So I can just do a shift return, and we can see that basically it was empty because I called that Boolean method on it. So that is definitely something that's pretty useful. I see that coming up a lot when I'm writing code. Is I have something where I want to know whether the string is empty or not, and if it is, then I do one thing. If not, I do another thing. So string mutability, we've been mostly dealing with immutable strings, but let's go ahead and try out the mutable strings. And so if you wanted to do, for example, string concatenation, which is a classic PHP style of string formatting, you do var variable, and we go ahead and we create this mutable variable. And then if I wanted to increment it in, so basically, add together some sentence, I think these are in some sense pretty useful for just your hacking, right? You're just trying to build something really quick. It's intuitive. You can look at it and you go, oh, you just take these two strings and you put them together. That's when I typically use the string concatenation. And we can see here is another one where we try to do an immutable string. And so notice that it doesn't support that, because the whole point of an immutable string or an immutable variable is that you can't mutate it, right? It could be something where it's mission critical, it never changes, and it says, uh-oh, it didn't compile properly, and it says left side of the mutating string isn't mutable, you'd have to change it. So it's pretty neat that it gives you a little warning here. And look, it even lets you fix it, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure that's necessarily what you would always want to do to fix it, but it's nice that that functionality is available. Next thing, strings are value types. So string is a value type. If you create a string value, that string value is copied when it's passed to a function or when it's assigned to a constant or variable. So strings copy by default behavior ensures that when a function or method passes to you as a string, it's clear you own that string value regardless of where it came from. And so you're not going to mutate a string unless you modify it by itself. So that is helpful, right? So you're not, changing something behind the scenes here. You're just getting a copy of a string, which makes, I think, a lot of sense to me. So what about working with characters? So in this case, if we wanted to loop over, some characters, so we would say, for example, for character in dog, we could loop through and print out each one of these things. So I guess strings support native splitting here, right? We can see that it'll actually go through and it'll print out. And in fact, I guess we have that right there, right? It goes dog, right? It prints that out at the bottom. You can also create a standalone character constant. And so let's go ahead and do this. This is kind of interesting. We say let exclamation mark character. We go through there and we do it. And then we could also say let character. So string values can be constructed by passing in an array of character values as an argument to their initializer. Okay, let's go ahead and try this out. And we print this out. We say let cat characters, and we go through here, and there we go. We are able to print out a cat string. Concatenation, in this case, this is similar. I guess the other method wasn't concatenation. It was called accumulation. But basically, they're accomplish the same thing. We just go through here and we have a immutable variable, string one. We have a second immutable variable, which is string two. And then we do a var, which is we create a welcome variable, which is mutable. And then we mutate these two variables together. Okay, so you can append a string value to an existing string variable with the addition assignment operator plus equal. And so if we go through here and we paste this in, we can say var instruction, and notice that in this particular scenario, we didn't have string two. So we need to bring that back in. Let's go ahead and do this. But basically, all this does is it appends. This is a classic kind of append operation to do the plus equal. You can also append a character to a string. So you can say let exclamation mark character, And then if we go to welcome, who is welcome? Welcome. Oh yeah, welcome was up here, so I need to pull that back. So I need to get this this var over here, and we will put this in here. We'll grab the string one as well. So I guess the idea here is that we're going to welcome is a string that's a mutable string, and a mutable string has a dot append method, and you can just go through here and just append a exclamation point onto it. So that is actually very interesting because this feels very, Python like, right, where you do append with an array, but in this case it isn't an array, it is a string, and then you add the exclamation part on top. So that is pretty interesting. It says, note, you can append a string or character to an existing character variable because a character value must contain a single character only. You can't append. Okay, so if you're using multi-line string literals to build up lines of longer strings, you want every line of the string to end with line break, you could do this. You could say let one, bad start, let end. And oh, I see. So you could basically let's try this out. Let's try these two phrases, and we say 1, 2, I see, and 3. So how would we fix this? We could say let good start. You would go through here and you would say let good start 1, 2, and then we would print good start in the end. And what would it do? It would print 1, 2, 3. Huh, interesting. So in the code above, concatenating bad start with in produces a 2-line string. Because the last line doesn't end with a line break, the line gets combined. So just showing us how to handle basically string formatting with multi-lines. Now, string interpolation is a way to construct a new string value from a mix of constants, variables, literals, expressions. This is very real world. I mean, this is something you always need to do when you're dealing with strings. If we go through here, we say let multiplier 3, let message. So basically we build out this phrase like a scientific notation, or like a word problem. Like in elementary school, you would build out something that substitutes out multiplier, right? And that's what this line break or backslash does. We can do other things as well. So you can extend string delimiters to create a string containing characters that would otherwise be treated as string interpolation. So that is kind of interesting. This concept here, where we can actually extend these, these string interpolations, and then we can also do this to use string interpolation inside of a string that uses extended delimiters. Match the number of number signs after the backslash to the number of number signs at the beginning. And so if we go through here, we can go through and play around with this. So definitely an interesting way to deal with string formatting. What about Unicode? We did play a little bit with this, but we can get a little bit fancier here. So we can do a another Unicode string here, which is right here. So this is kind of just bragging that you can do really cool stuff. You can also build out a Korean alphabet character. Here we go, let precomposed. And so this is a Korean alphabet character, let precomposed colon character. What else can we do here? We can count characters. So in this particular character, I see, it comes when you do a let of a variable. One of the things that you can do is it comes with a count method. So if I go and I call this unusual menagerie and I do a dot, we should see a count, and it will tell us that this will return back an integer that is the number of characters. So that is actually pretty cool that you don't even have to do anything. It just comes with that property on the object. So that's pretty neat. And then in this case, I have another example here, which is if you initialize a string with a 4-character word, cafe, you can then combine this together. So we can go through here and we could, print this out. Go through here and print this thing out. There we go. It looks pretty good. Number of characters. So accessing and modifying strings. I mean, I guess the big thing here is that you can slice strings. I mean, I guess that's really the big takeaway, is to slice strings. You can do either the start, or you can do before, or you can do offsets. These are all examples of how to slice a string. And you get errors if you go outside of it. So we'll skip past that. You can insert a character into a string at a specific index, which is interesting. I'm not sure how often you would do that, but it's good to know it's available for you. You can remove string characters as well. Substrings, so this would be things like using a prefix in a substring. So if we say let greeting hello world, you could go through and you could tweak this thing a little bit. So let's go ahead and try this out and deal with substrings. So what does this do? We basically are able to slice this substring up and process it. And we can compare strings. So this does happen quite a bit, at least when I'm writing code. I'm always comparing strings. And so, you would just basically do equality, so I would just say like, let quotation, let's just copy these so I don't have to type too much. I'm going to put these two strings, which should be identical. And then if I just do an equality, so I just do quotation equal to single quotation, this should say true, right? I don't even have to do a conditional statement. I can just inline try it out, and we know that they're actually true. And that's all we really care about there. You can do prefix and suffix equality, which is pretty neat. Has prefix, that's neat to know about. Unicode representations of strings, UTF-8, as well. So you can actually access the UTF-8 representation of a string. So I'll go ahead and try this out. So basically I do a for loop and I say .utf8. Let's go ahead and print this out. And so in this case, what am I missing for code unit and dog string? So I think I need dog string above here, and then we can try this out. And we have dog string. Aha, there we go. So we're able to, for code and dog string unit, we're able to, this should have printed, there we go. We get the ability to access the UTF-8 representation of the string, which gives us the different positions. Okay, UTF-16 representation. We could also do that. Let's go ahead and print that out. And let's do that. Print that out. There we go. We have these. And Unicode scalar representation. But yeah, in a nutshell, I guess I would say that the big thing to be aware of with Swift and strings, which again I'm learning this on my own right now, is that it does feel a lot like the Python language. There are mutable strings. You can slice strings. You can accumulate them. And that it's pretty intuitive. I think a lot of languages have similar things, and that the compiler is really helpful. It tells you hints that, like for example, this is mutable or this is immutable. You need to fix it. So I think handling strings in Swift, in my experience, is definitely very enjoyable, and I'm impressed so far. So next week I'm going to cover collection types. Right, so arrays, sets, and dictionaries, and I'll dive into that next week. I'll still probably be a little bit compromised in typing, so I'll probably cut and paste a lot. But hope to see you all next week.